Jumping back into banners. Hey, John, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Craig?
Good. We might as well jump right into this.
Yeah, we've got lots to talk about this morning. So
We do. Welcome back to Silicon Scoop, everyone. So the first update this morning is last week we talked about how the astronauts from NASA were stuck. And, they've been up there since May. They've been docked there since May 19th. And NASA, there's been problems with the Boeing Starliner that it has. There's been problems with the thrusters. There's been problems with a bunch of different things. And they didn't know when they were going to get home. They got plenty of food, but as you were saying, they were running out of things like clothing and whatnot. But they've got a couple of supply runs. So now the question becomes, where are we? Where are they? And when they're going to bring it home. So we talked about all this stuff about problems on, why can't they just fly up another suit? And apparently they have. They have one suit up there already. They're going to bring up another one. And we didn't know dates and how long and what the resolution was going to be. But within hours of us talking about it, they came out with they've decided to act.
Yeah. Yeah, they made a decision.
So they've made a decision. So NASA will return Boeing Starliner to Earth without astronauts. So Butch and Wilmore and Sonny Williams are currently aboard the spacecraft, and they're going to now be brought home by SpaceX.
Yeah.
In a Dragon module.
Yeah. This is... Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to throw it over to you.
Oh, yeah, no, this is nuts. This just goes to show that this underscores SpaceX's growing dominance in space transportation, essentially. The other thing to think about too, right? As this problem with Boeing and their Starliner spacecraft becomes bigger and bigger, the CEO of Millennium Space, which is Boeing's satellite maker, has quietly left the company.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. I got that article up here.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. No, that's great. I mean, this is all part of it.
So they're slated to come back on in February. So again, this just goes to underscore all of the problems that Boeing has had with their airplanes, with their space program, with everything. And like, I know that they changed leadership, but I don't know if that's really going to fix things.
Agreed. I don't know if it's going to fix things, and only changed leadership in this particular segment, so that doesn't affect the leadership in the plane area and whatnot. It's Boeing's in a lot of trouble, and NASA didn't want to take a chance. Boeing says, yeah, it's safe to bring them home, but NASA and Boeing identified helium leaks and experienced issues with the spacecraft reaction control on the thrusters on June 6th, which has been causing us all a bunch of these problems. Since then, engineering teams have completed a significant amount of work, including reviewing a collection of data, conducting flight and ground testing, hosting independent reviews with agency propulsion experts, and developing various return contingencies plans. The uncertainty and lack of experts concurrence does not meet the agency's safety performance requirements for human space flight. So we're saying, yeah, but you don't meet our requirements for a human space flight, so we need another way to bring our astronauts home. So they need the NASA leadership team to move the astronauts to the Crew 9 mission.
Yeah, so it's this is definitely a blow, but it just goes to show that there was something with the parachute, there's something with the wiring, there's just
parachute concerns, problems were detected with the parachute system, raising concerns with its ability to safely deploy when they were bringing it home. Potential issues with the spacecraft wiring were also identified, which could pose safety risk. The Starliner has been docked since May, so NASA is planning to return the Starliner uncrewed, and I think that is going to be make or break for Boeing, honestly. Because they say it's perfectly safe to bring home. So anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. The crew will be on board. ISIS is now scheduled to return to Earth in February 2025 using a different spacecraft, likely a Dragon space capsule. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
But
now, Elon's, I won't say laughing. People are, but they all of a sudden they're ahead now. And NASA has to reevaluate its multiple partner situation. But I guess at the same time, if it only had Boeing as a partner, they'd be screwed. So having multiple partners has really helped them. They're probably going to have to set up new standards, like we talked about, to make sure spacesuits are compatible and a few of these other things. And they're going to bring the Starliner home on September 2024. Sorry. They're going to bring the Starliner to Earth. Yeah, mid-September, in a month, give or take.
yeah,
Um, and so we'll see how well that goes. If that comes home safely and there are no absolute issues and everything's safe, then Boeing still has some hint of integrity left. If
yeah.
anything happens with that, because they continue to say it's safe, this and that, they're completely ruined. And I wouldn't, necessarily trust them going forward, because there's a lot of stuff going here.
No,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
The other thing to take into consideration, and I think it's flown under the radar, is there was something about space anemia, and like the extended space mission and health conditions, and they're worried about Sunita's health, based on how much longer she's going to have to stay out there. So there's a bunch of health issues that come into play, and like it's scary. Is this? I don't even know. Is this the longest that anyone's, obviously unplanned though? Probably the longest unplanned. But is this the longest anyone's been in at ISS for?
That is a very good
That's a
question.
good question. I just thought of it now as we were talking about it.
That's
But
all right. I'll find out in a minute. But I wanted to jump over to, based on all of this that's going on, like you said, Jason Kim, the CEO of Boeing satellite maker, Millennium Space, has quietly left the company.
yeah. So I don't know much about Millennium Space. I think that's their satellite division. Is that right?
Yes, that's the people who make all this.
Oh, the people that even do the Starliner
Starliner.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
So
obviously, yeah, that makes total
it's a
sense.
Boeing subsidiary that does all this space stuff.
Yeah. The thing is I was actually doing some research and talking about this. Like, is this the end of Boeing? But really, it's not, right? Because they've got tons of government contracts. They're an old company that's been around, they're well resourced, with a long history of overcoming adversity. They're one of the largest aerospace manufacturers in the world with a diverse portfolio. Um, I like as much as I would like them to fail because of all of the shady stuff that they've done, I don't think they will.
So to answer your questions, 437 days and 18 hours.
Okay, so not even close. Okay.
Valery Poliskov aboard the
Oh,
Mir
was that
space
recently?
station in 1994 to March 22, 1995.
Wow.
And then after that, it was 370 days by Sergei Averdeyev. This is a small font, forgive me. He spent 379 days aboard Mir between 1998 and 1999.
Wow. Okay, so they're not even close to that.
And Gennady Padelka has spent the most cumulative time in space with a total of 878 days and 5 minutes.
Jeez.
Over 5 missions, sorry. All right, it's a small font there. All right, Millennium Space was acquired by Boeing back in 2018. Under Kim's leadership, the company secured significant deals with the U.S. Department of Defense to build satellites for missile and threat tracking. The company has also successfully executed the Victus Nox mission for the U.S. Space Force, which set new records for the fastest integration deployment defense payload. The satellite, the Victus Nox success involved partnering the Firefly Space to integrate a satellite with a launch vehicle within just 58 hours. The satellite became operational 37 hours after launch, demonstrating a rapid delivery capabilities.
Wow.
So they've done some stuff, but Kim's departure comes amidst uncertainty with Boeing's space division, including issues with Starliner spacecraft, which recently had to return to Earth with, or going to return to Earth without a crew.
Without a
So
crew. Have they had other issues with the Starliner in the past? I don't even know that. I know that's another question you probably don't have the answer to. But
I don't have it off the top of my head because only when the astronauts get stranded did I start paying attention.
I know, me too. Yeah.
So we're gonna keep track of this, and we'll watch when the Starliner comes home and see what goes on, and we'll keep tabs on the astronauts and let you know what's happening there.
Yeah. So it says that in 2019 they had software issues with the orbital flight tests. They've had mission delays because of technical problems in 21. So there's been a lot of, but again, when it comes to going to space, like SpaceX even has problems, right? So
yeah.
All
right, let's jump into this next one.
Sure. Grok 2.
Grok 2. Now, Grok 2 just came out, and now it's generating controversy. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is kind of crazy. So Grok 2, it's from OpenAI. It's their latest chatbot, and
Grok 2 is from X.
Sorry. Grok 2 is from X. Sorry. I don't know why I said OpenAI.
But they're just gonna roast me in the comments if I let that go.
Oh God, sorry about that. This is crazy because there's essentially no there's no protection in place for any kind of copyright or anything. So you could generate Mickey Mouse with Batman. You could generate anything that you want with this output, and this is a generative AI for images. That essentially there's no red flags, there's no kind of guardrails or anything like that. So it's crazy, it's scary. It can deliver convincing yet inaccurate information, and it might lead users to trust its output more than they should, especially in contexts where accurate information is critical. So it's the way that it's built is it's designed to handle more complex interactions, and it'd be more contextually aware responses. So it's actually pretty crazy to think about the potential implications of, again, misinformation, all that sort of stuff when it comes to generating output, right?
Yeah, again, but how is that any different than someone sitting down and writing? So, I mean, we have to be careful when we say, if you got a typewriter or a word processor, you can write anything you want, and then that's fine.
Yeah.
But God forbid AI writes anything you want. So I'm like, okay, well, there is obviously, you don't want it to put out things as facts to people that aren't facts if you can avoid those things. But if you're writing fiction, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, we do stuff all the time. So it's a question of, for me anyway, creativity versus free copyright freedom, making sure that we're not like, this is a AI generated picture of Kamala Harris making doses. So great. Looks great. Looks like a pretty good image.
Yeah.
But there are rules around this stuff all the time. And it's funny because we talk about, I run into these rules and you like, I've never run into these rules. And I'm like, I run into these rules all the time. Yeah. In fact, yesterday, I when I'm prepping for this, creating art for thumbnails that I'm going to use for discussion points, I got AI to create the prompt to create the art. And great, now create the art. And it says, oh, I can't do that. Copyright, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, why did you... you created the prompt that did this? I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, oh yeah.
Okay, could you ask it to create a prompt for you that doesn't violate copyright?
Well, I that's what I went back to, and I say, why? I asked it why it would give me a prompt that violates his copyright, and so, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. So give me, and it came back. So I was like, why would? So
were you able to get the output that you wanted after?
Oh, not what I wanted from it. I went to another place to get the art I want. And for that specific one, honestly, was for Disney Terms of Service update we did last week, where, they've backed off a little bit on that death suit.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So I was looking for a mouse in court in a black overalls, and it just did not want to do it. It gave me at the end, it gave me a pencily one. So I went to another one and no problem. So as soon as I just said a mouse in court in a black overalls, and it said, "Oh, sorry, that's copyright." What do you mean?
Oh God! Wow.
Yeah, because because it was in context of the Disney article. Because usually
Yeah.
I put the context here and say, "Here's an article. Give me a prompt that'll create a graphic for that, an
Yeah.
image for this," and it goes ahead. So great. But
You
it
want to
just
know the
goes.
easiest way to solve these problems of misinformation, especially with images and things like that, is just build in a watermark. Am I missing the point? Am I missing
No, they
the
do
book?
that. Most of the AI things build in the watermark in it now, so people can tell it was AI generated. That's not the problem. The problem
Oh,
is, um, creating falseness, right? Because now I can take that AI image and I can put it in something else, put text overlays on this and that, and
yeah,
create another image, and all of a sudden, you can't tell it's AI art necessarily anymore because it's been changed and altered, and maybe that bit's been covered up.
yeah,
So, but also, it's misleading. Who's going to go through the process of doing all that when we're seeing, someone with a gun or this or that or whatever it is the lie AI art is creating? I wanted it to create a very sad mouse in court. It didn't want to do that. I wanted the mouse saying, "We're sorry,"
yeah,
but no, apparently not. Anyway, the point being is, we have these guardrails, but sounds like Grok 2 does some amazing things, but we're still at those safety rail points. So I take a step back and say, did we, misthink about the pause they were calling for AI a year or so ago and saying, "Oh, AI is gonna kill, so let's pause and put some
wasn't it
safety
Elon Musk
standards."
that was calling for a pause?
Yeah, and the joke was that calling for a pause so we can catch up, or you slow down so we can catch up. But it wasn't the pause so much, but what are the rules? And
Yeah,
we talked a couple of weeks ago about the EU has adopted rules, some
yeah,
rules, and though we had a little bit of heated discussion because I think whether you like rules or don't like rules, if you're going to implement rules, I like them to be clear and unambiguous as much as possible, so it's easy to understand and I know what side I'm on.
yeah,
And those were not. And although it's a step in the right direction, it was clear in a couple of cases, but it's all unclear on many other cases as to what side of the fence it falls on for rules of safety.
yeah.
So,
Well,
is it bad? Is it bad that you can unrestrict things? I was looking at models. We talked about Llama 3.1. I was looking at models online on Hugging Face and stuff, and a bunch of them is, hey, here's OpenAI unrestricted. Here's this unrestricted. Here's that unrestricted. Where
yeah,
they give you the model and the prompts to get your unrestricted access to create whatever you want. So
yeah.
it's not hard to get. Again, apparently, if you start looking around, I haven't
No,
used
but
any of those. But the point being is, um, how much of that do we need? And because
yeah,
it's creating all these content and it I was creating content this morning, and the content I was creating this morning is I was getting a summary for a couple of these articles, just so I'd have some talking points,
yeah,
and it got a lot of stuff wrong, and I had to get it to double check 2 or 3 times, saying, "Oh, you're talking about NASA making decisions that these things have happened in the future. In August 2025, this happened. What do you mean? That's a year from now. Oh, and it changes that and it changes this. It's like,
yeah,
the article, today's date, this, but still you get all these things wrong.
yeah.
So we're not worried about that, all the errors and mess up and stuff, and telling people to put glue on pizza. What we're worried about someone's unrestricted access so that I can create an image or I can do this or I can do that. So I, you know,
Yeah.
I take a step back and say, I'm baffled. Isn't this kind of the same thing? Just
Yeah.
two sides of it? What
But the
difference does
thing
it
is,
make if it's
if you the easier you make it, the more of the idiots that are going to get the access to it. If you make it more difficult, you're going to have people who like they're going to have to learn it. They're going to have to go through and figure it out, as opposed to just making it super easy for people. You're going to have more misinformation out there as opposed to less. And maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but that's not gonna it won't matter one way or the other.
That's true. Yeah.
Because the misinformation people are gonna be doing misinformation.
Yeah.
Period. Whether they're farming it out to mass, whatever, because there's a lot of tools out there way more available already before this. This maybe helps it, but everything's a speed cycle, everything, it just ramps up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, I don't necessarily think the answer is 100% making sure this doesn't generate or have some, moral boundaries. Like there are some boundaries we want to try and make sure for sure.
Yeah.
Um, you know, sexual violent content and stuff, we want
Yeah.
to try, I think, keep those. But other
For
than
sure.
that, shouldn't we be focused on accuracy?
We should. Yeah. Like,
These
for
things should be
example,
on.
have you heard the problem with all of these models? They cannot identify how many R's there are in strawberry.
They can't identify lots of stuff, and when
Yeah.
they lose a fraction of context, things go to shit. Like it
Yeah.
just goes to crap.
Yeah.
And Llama was great, and I was running it, and all of a sudden, it went out in left field in the middle of doing something. It's like, okay, I guess we ran out of
Yeah.
context there, and then you
I've been
start doing, it's like,
finding
oh,
that.
you just
Go
got
ahead.
there, but you can, with the Llama model you install locally, you can control that. You can control how much context and this and that it can retain, and so it's just a matter of tweaking those. But
Oh, that's good. That's what I'm finding with some of these LLMs is some days I'm getting a good output and other days I'm not. It's so weird. Like from the exact same prompt.
yeah, I've got some very detailed prompts, and I'm humming along
Yeah.
daily, do, and then one day all of a sudden it's like, what the f is this? Like this is complete garbage compared to everything I've been getting up to this point.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, it all comes down to, and I keep repeating this to everyone. Um, AI is only as useful as to if you know what the output you want to get. That's if you don't know the output, you're either going to come across as an idiot because you're going to share something that's inaccurate, or you're just gonna keep running around in circles trying to get something that you don't know what you're trying to get. Kind of like it's you need to know what the output is that you're looking to get in order to use AI properly or efficiently.
Absolutely. I was working with a couple clients this week actually, showing them how to do a couple of things that they were stuck on, and saying, the one thing AI does really well is get rid of a blank page syndrome. When you are,
Yes. Yes.
I don't even know where to start. All right, draft an outline. Go
Yeah.
find this information. What should be included in this document? Great. Now I got something to start. Give me, whatever.
Yeah.
Those types of things get you moving. Like I said to who I was working with, I said it's much easier to edit a document, edit a draft, even if it's not a great one, than to start with nothing.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah. I just shared with you I really like, and I always go back to Anthropic because I really like Anthropic. They they all they the output has been provided, or the output that comes out is amazing. It's accurate. Um, and they even I just gave you the link so you can share it with others. Is they've given us a prompt library that you can work from. It's phenomenal. Um, Absolutely love it. So
yeah, let me see. I'll put it in the comments here. I'm not exactly sure which social media platforms we're streaming to that'll go to. Looks like it went to Facebook and YouTube,
yeah.
but I'm not sure about LinkedIn.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it just depends how the commenting system can work. So
Okay.
I'll put that link there.
Yeah.
Let's I'm excited. There was a link. We're going to put a link in the show notes to that article you posted about how to use Access Grok for free, so people can go and access it themselves. I'd like to
Yeah.
take a look at this, if not for nothing else, for image generation. So maybe I can actually generate some of the thumbnail images I want to for album
Sure.
art when we're talking about this stuff. I'm
Yeah.
curious. You talked about Anthropic. That's Claude. I've used it a little bit, but I quickly run out of my free characters.
Oh, well, yeah, I pay for it. That's why. So
Yeah, I pay for OpenAI, and I'm loving it. And I've been experimenting with some of these things. It's just like The other day, I was trying to do so many things. I had 4 different chat windows open. I got Perplexity, I got OpenAI, I got Claude, and I think I had Llama, all doing different things, comparing them. I'm
Yeah.
gonna wanna at some point do a good. I think we can do a good comparison of input and output for each of these. I'd like to get Grok and those in there. We just have to set up some standard tests. All right. You ready to jump on to
Yeah.
the
And
next one?
I'm telling you, if you want to mess around with LLMs, pay the $20 a month for Poe.com. I'm telling you, that's the one you want to go to.
Yeah, and I might end up dumping OpenAI and going there.
Yeah.
So the CEO of Telegram, I got to find the webpage here among all my other web pages, was flying around and went to France and they arrested him.
Yeah. This is crazy.
So
So
it,
apparently, he's facing criminal charges for a platform that is supposed to help to, like he's facing for illegal activities, including drug trafficking, money laundering, terrorism. It's absolutely crazy. Despite the fact that Telegram boasts encryption and privacy features, right? But I think I read somewhere, it might be Telegram or it might be somewhere else, where that they um, if law enforcement requests information, they will send it. They will comply. I think that's Telegram.
Yeah, well, I can't get the full article here, so I'll jump into my article in a bit, so because it has a more detail. But Pavel Durov is a citizen of a Russian French citizen,
Yeah,
and basically, yeah, they are charging him is that he's responsible. He's not doing enough to limit criminal behavior on the app.
yeah.
So the question becomes: is this and I've already seen it. Is this a shot off the bow for privacy and free speech?
Absolutely. But it says in their privacy terms that if they receive a request from, so if Telegram receives a court order that confirms that you're a terror suspect, they may disclose a bunch of information to them.
Yeah, which I think most of these companies actually do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But the
except
crazy part is, go ahead.
I think except for a couple, I don't put words in my mouth, but there's a couple of the one-to-one encrypted messaging platforms like Signal and whatnot that I'm not. If you own your own keys, they're supposed to be. Again, I'm not sure if it's Signal or which ones are that they're not supposed to be able to give that away. I'm not sure
Yeah,
why they're not targeting them, but maybe they're not as popular, and they're not group conversations like Telegram is.
yeah, yeah. But again, so it just, so here's the thing: is there's a bunch of different ways that obviously law, and I'm not a law enforcement professional or expert or anything, but there's a couple things that they could have done. Like there could have been surveillance and monitoring, cooperation with other governments, legal investigations and warrants, public and private complaints, potentially patterns of negligence. Like there's a whole bunch of different ways that they could have, without without getting access to any Telegram information, if that makes sense.
Yeah, at the heart of the allegations is that Telegram's privacy features have been exploited by criminals to coordinate and carry out illegal activities, while Telegram's encryption ensures that messages remain private. It also means that law enforcement agencies struggle to intercept and prevent these crimes. Critics argue that refusing to provide backdoors for government access, Telegram is indirectly aiding criminal enterprises.
That's scary.
Yeah, so we'll have to follow these legal proceedings and see what's going on. The stakes are high. I've seen a few comments that people are now pointing the finger at Elon Musk saying we're coming after you. It's like
Yeah,
great.
this is like, if this happens, so the French have always been like this, but like if this actually happens, and he is charged, it's going to set a scary precedent for how governments and tech companies address the privacy and security in the digital age, for sure.
Yeah, and again, I sit back and I don't want anybody hurt. I don't want terrorism
No,
happening. I don't want violence or any of that stuff. But I remember 10 years ago, maybe, when there were rebellions in the Sudan area for is it Sudan? No, not Turkey. Anyway, they were using Twitter to
Yeah.
organize their uh, action against the government, whether it's protests or this and that. And they would organize on Twitter, and everybody thought that was fantastic. Look at this, look at this, look at this. So it's great if they're doing it against someone else's government, but as soon as they start doing it against your government, we got to stop it and lock it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, like the thing is if this happens and they're just gonna find another platform to communicate on, like I know that I've seen it in TVs, but I've in TV shows, but I've actually heard about it being used in real life where criminals will organize and communicate on a video game in the chat in a video game.
Yeah, I've
So
seen people talk about that too. But I mean, this is the I hear this argument all the time. Criminals use it. Well, you know what? Criminals use cars. Criminals
yeah,
use banks. Criminals use shoes. They use clothes. They
yeah,
use computers. Like, we have to sit back and say, what are you talking about?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and say, all right, great. Um, we're talking about organized crime. Great. Specifically going after mob or multiple groups, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we can define it at least. And then, how do we now attack that? And since, this is a problem, not just for Telegram, it's a problem like people do it in Facebook
Yeah,
groups, like you said, in games, they do it
yeah,
everywhere. And so, the solution is going to be the tech companies, if they haven't already started, they're just going to hire a third party company, and that third party company is going to make millions. And they're going to be responsible for coming up best practices to
yeah,
combat this stuff. And then everybody's going to follow those best practices. And then if they go wrong, they'll blame that third party company, saying, well, we're following them. They're the leader. And even though the third company is made up of people out of these other companies, just saying, hey, we'll just go over here and do it.
yeah,
And it keeps them at arm's length, right?
yeah,
So does it really change much? Or, I think, again, in general, I'm a free speech advocate. So
yeah,
I don't like it when people are trying to suppress our ability to communicate and get their message out there, especially when we're talking about communicating one-on-one.
yeah,
If I want to talk to you, we're having a couple of beers or over whatever, and we're chatting, we know each other. I want to give you my opinion on whatever, and I don't want anybody else to, be worried about that at all or care.
yeah.
So because
Well,
otherwise now I got to be thinking about, I got wrong think, I got this now. But when you're talking about group, you're talking about inciting to violence, you're talking about getting whatever. Now we're crossing a line somewhere that it needs to be potentially available for law enforcement, other people, that kind of stuff. And I don't know where to draw the line.
no, and yeah, and that's the thing is if this goes through too, like there's just going to be another tech company messaging platform that comes up that 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 offers the same things that will be untouchable. They'll just learn from this experience, kind of thing, right? So, like, I get the I get that. Like the thing is the I feel like the authorities are doing this because they've been kind of outsmarted, kind of thing, because they don't have access to this information. They want access to it, and this is how they're trying to get access to it, right?
Yeah, there's a great article on torontostarts.com that's got a great detail on what he's been charged with, the impact. But I take a step back, and I want to jump on to other stuff here. But
Yeah,
recently, we had that EU commissioner saying to Elon Musk, you better not have that live interview with Donald Trump, or we're going to, if he says anything we don't like, we're coming after you. And Elon's like, go F yourself. Why are you interfering in US elections?
yeah,
And, then everyone's like, oh, crap.
yeah.
And the head of the EU, von der Leyen, came out and said, oh, he's not with us and he got in a lot of trouble. But they're heading in that direction where we want to control what you say. If you see what's happening in the UK with all the arrests related to memes and, you can stab and kill people and get out, but if you post a meme of a politician, you got 20 months or multiple years in jail, period.
Yeah.
So people are starting to wonder, well, like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a war on free speech happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And there always is, right? There's always some sort of war happening on free speech. I know we got a lot of articles to cover, so might as well move on to the next.
So OpenAI is looking for a new funding round to take its valuation above $100 billion. What are you thinking about this?
I'm worried. Are we getting into another WeWork, another Uber type situation where it's going to be overvalued? I don't know. I do know that they do we talked about their. What did we talk about? Did we talk about their revenue or did we talk about their expenses?
We talked about their
Potential.
revenue, but
Yeah.
their expenses are crazy.
Yeah.
And they're losing, like, I cover it in this article. We go they have an 8 billion burn rate.
Holy shit.
It's a year. So the monthly operational cost is around $700 million. And we were talking about that they generate between 1.6 and 3.2 billion a year. And you're like, okay, now we know. They're losing $5+ billion a year, so they need more money.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And so here's the thing: is I think their biggest cost is computational costs, right? Computational power, different things like that. So if they can, working with NVIDIA and NVIDIA's new GPUs and processors, they might be able to bring that cost down. But how quickly can they do that? That's the question for me, at least.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about a couple of things here, but they're looking to get into hardware. So I'm curious as to see if that's going to start generating money, because as we get to the next article, we're going to be talking about Midjourney's into hardware. My question is going to be: is it only hardware companies making money in AI?
Well, we can talk about the NVIDIA Q2 earnings, but yes.
That's what I mean. We're going to talk about all those kind of together. So, there's a great article here on TorontoStarts.com that really breaks down, the history of OpenAI, what they raised, who their investors are, how this round is going, where they're going. They're exploring AI and robotics, expanding AI accessibility, developing AI for climate change mitigation, strengthening AI safety for ethics research, expanding AI application for healthcare, advancing general artificial intelligence, and enhanced NLP processing capabilities, which are what they're focusing on right now.
Yeah. You know what? I just a quick thing that I was thinking about before OpenAI, before all of these. The one that really blew me away from the start was Alexa. Was Amazon's Alexa, and it seems like they just have fallen by the wayside when it comes to their capabilities. But based on where AI is going, and again, it's not real AI; it's machine learning. It's a bunch of instructions, but based on where AI is going and use cases and applicability, I'm not surprised that they're looking for this kind of evaluation, if that makes sense.
So the question becomes: if you had the money, would you invest in them right now?
I don't know. It's a good question, and the question is: are they going to go? When are they going to go public?
And what is it? 100 times earnings, potentially more than 100 times earnings. They're valued at. So you have to take a look about that and they're losing $5 to $6 billion a year. You have no idea when they're going to see profitability, but if you're playing the stock game, as soon as their valuation jumps, your whatever you bought in at is going to jump, but then it could easily start going down, jumping around, right?
For sure, it could jump around. But we don't know when they're going to be profitable, right? Because
Yep,
they haven't
yep.
released that. But I'm sure that they have some sort of plan that they presented to their investors, right?
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll see how the round goes and who gets invested, and when it's done, we'll talk about it again. So we'll track this. But want to keep an eye on it. You know, we talk
Yeah.
about the AI $1 trillion lie, and are we at peak AI? I keep bringing this up, but you know, you see stuff like this, and you got to wonder, yeah, exactly. Is this the next bubble? Because let's raise another 100 billion, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever, because we need, what do I have to raise to get a more than 100 billion valuation? Because I'm already valued around that. So I need like
Mhm.
a 200 billion valuation or 250 billion valuation or whatever it is, bringing more money in. And what am I going to get? Am I going to get, I, I'm burning 5 billion a year. I'm losing this money. I'm burning 8 billion a year. So, and I'm only making 1.6 to 3 billion. That's a 5 billion deficit. How much, you know, where's the extra money coming from, like long term? How long can it'll obviously continue to exist because there's a lot of things they can do. They can obviously cut back on a lot of things and probably become profitable if they decided to stop doing research and just, you know, serve the customers they have.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a fear. You know, this exactly. Is this the next bubble? We work, grow at all costs. We know it's losing money, a lot of friggin' money. It's a huge leaky bucket,
Yeah.
and we don't know when everyone's still loving AI. And I mean, they're all losing money everywhere. So they're going into hardware, and we'll have to see if that's going to
Yeah.
pay out for them.
And the thing is that they're not the only ones that are losing money. All of them are losing money. So it's not like they've got a bad business model. Well, compared to others, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were looking at the revenue they were generating. 70% of the revenue comes from GTP plus customers like myself. So
Yeah.
it's obviously not enough.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of hardware and AI, Midjourney's hardware. So they want to build this thing called the Orb. And my question is, are the only profitable AI companies hardware companies? As we just talked about, AI is losing money hand over open AI. Everyone thinks it's the shining star, which is great, but you know, it's a huge pile of flaming money. Midjourney's hardware, the Orb, has been announced, and you know, the question is, will it follow the Humane AI pin or the Rabbit R1, aimed at revolutionizing how we interact with technology, but ended up failing due to several critical flaws? Are we going to see the same thing with this, or is it going to be take on something to the next level?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, it's crazy that so there was a Canadian company called Grok with a Q that was getting into AI chips, and then they shifted to software actually. So these guys are shifting to hardware. It's noteworthy. It does make sense because then they can build an ASIC, like an application specific integrated circuit. Um, but again, it's are they like chip design is not easy. Maybe with AI it might be easier, but um, like NVIDIA does essentially have a hold on the GPU market. I know there's other companies that are creating their own. I know Microsoft's working on one, Apple, Intel, AMD, Google, but no one can touch NVIDIA. So the question is do they have the money to develop and fail to get to a hardware that can be used that can mimic or even overcome what NVIDIA produces?
Well, yeah, no one can touch NVIDIA today, but you know, we could have said that about Intel 10 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, and we like, yeah, okay, and we can see that that is, you know, they're collapsing, and we'll see if they can recover. But you know, they are definitely waning in popularity. And this kind of hardware is a little bit different. They're looking for the Orb, for example, game changer in fields like 3D modeling and real time content creation. I'm it sounds more like our startup Lumex, who came out and they had the world's not flat, so they've got a 3D camera modeling system that helps you take pictures and model stuff in 3D in
Hmm.
real time.
Yeah.
So their hardware ambitions could represent a bold, exciting chapter for them because it's unprecedented capabilities. Imagine an AI-powered device that not only generates images but also creates an entire 3D environment in real time, providing artists and designers with new ways to visualize and execute their ideas.
Yes, but again, chip design is not easy. Architecture doesn't matter what you're using it for, but trying to get the architecture right of the chip and everything so that you can like look at even Google, the biggest like the who owns Android, right? Look how many problems they had with their first tensor chip that they designed themselves, that they designed in house. So it's the question is, do they have the staying power to go through multiple iterations to get to something that they that is usable?
Yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
I didn't read far enough to know who their product manager is here, but there's a deep dive on torontostarts.com because a lot of these other articles that have the great information are behind paywalls. So
Yeah.
I break down these, compare a bunch of articles. So we've got the information. We talk about OpenAI versus Midjourney. The thing is, I think Midjourney might be using off the shelf hardware from other people and using their own software, where OpenAI is trying to create new hardware for faster AI generative processing, where Midjourney is trying to produce something with cameras and chips so we can do 3D rendering in a device faster and in real time and capture 3D environments, which is different. So I
Yeah.
think, you're taking potential off the shelf components and putting them into a product. So you need a great product manager to integrate them into something sweet,
Yeah.
versus what NVIDIA and OpenAI are trying to create new hardware to accelerate the process behind all this stuff. So they could just plug in somebody else's chips to do the AI work.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll have to see.
But I question, Rabbit R1, although it's a flop, uh, it generated a lot of excitement and made a lot of money selling those. So as long as they didn't take a loss on building and shipping those, they should be doing all right as a company and giving them a chance to come up with a second product. I remember talking about it, saying, I didn't really care about the hardware device. I wanted the back end software that does the interaction,
Yeah.
and I'm still looking for that.
Well, no, they pretty much said they. I think someone had evaluated and said it pretty much could run on any Android device.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's
Yeah.
it just sounds like it's just a Raspberry Pi with a camera and
Yeah.
so not a lot of CPU power. So I got the question is
No.
we'll keep an eye on Midjourney's hardware
Yeah. And that's
and
the thing with the Rabbit R1. Just the thing is it was heavily underpowered as far as an Android device goes. So you they might have made money off it based on that.
and speaking of, we'll keep an eye on Midjourney and what they're doing here. It's interesting to see uh, because the text to graphic companies, one, are in a lot of lawsuits, but two, there's a lot of them out there using different models. They're finding it harder and harder to differentiate.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if this is going to be a game changer for them.
Yeah.
All right, you threw this article in about NVIDIA's after hours results. What's happening?
Yeah. So this is crazy. Even though let me just find my speaking notes here. So NVIDIA, they obviously highly anticipated Q2 earnings report for 2024. The company reported revenues of 13.51 billion for one quarter. One
Wow.
quarter, which exceeded analyst expectations, and the market over year increase of more than 101%. That's crazy. So specifically, out of that 13.51 billion, I think 10.32 billion of that was specifically the data center segment, So, which is a 171% increase from the previous year. And their earnings per share beat expectations, coming in at 2.70 compared to 2.09 predicted by analysts. So this is crazy. But again, this is they are the this is their wheelhouse. This is what they do. This is um, like they are the player in this space, the biggest player in this space. But something happened in after hours trading where Nvidia stock fell about 2%, because there were, even though people knew that they were going to beat expectations, I think they had an even higher expectation that they were going to beat, like a higher number, which didn't meet, which is crazy. So like, even though they blew away expectations, there was even higher expectations that they didn't meet, which is why. But 2% is not much. Actually, it is based on the size of their stock. But yeah.
Yeah, the market may have been expecting more, particularly in terms of future growth. Moreover, broader market conditions played a significant role. The tech sector has been experiencing volatility with concerns about rising interest rates and economic slowdown impacting investor sentiment. In such an environment, even minor deviation from expected trajectory can lead to significant stock price fluctuations. And there's a quote in this article that says, there's three things in life you can count on: death, taxes, and Nvidia beating earnings. And I guess they were expecting that. So you built in so much confidence that, it's such a powerhouse. This is the new darling. It's the new biggest company in the world that surpasses Apple, then doesn't, then does, biggest company. But
like,
everyone expects more. Like, wait a minute, you're not tripling your income next year. You're not doing this, even though the tech sector is doing massive layoffs and everyone's doing we're headed into some sort of recession if we're not in the middle of one, because everything costs so much and people are spending or shrinking, that, they have an outlook that's not quite as rosy. Everyone's like, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, just like you said, you didn't triple. Like, even though they were only supposed to double, you're like, you didn't triple. Like, it's crazy, absolutely nuts.
NVIDIA's future projections remain largely positive. The company's focus on AI, particularly in sectors with autonomous vehicles. Cloud computing is expected to drive substantial revenue. However, tech sector's inherent volatility means NVIDIA stock down moments could continue to occur, particularly in a market that remains jittery.
Yeah, the thing is that some investors, and rightfully so, but might be concerned about whether the company can sustain this level of performance in the coming quarters, which makes sense, right? Like, how do you sustain this? Like, you can only build so many data centers, but again, we're not even close to the amount of data centers that we need in order to sustain and help grow the AI ecosystem.
But it's not just the data centers; it's all the AI chips in everything, like all the AI put in cars, all the AI and whatnot. And recently, I don't know if you noticed, I saw that announcement a month or so ago. Apple has canceled their AI vehicle, autonomous vehicle project, and e-vehicle. They're out of the car business.
Out of what?
Out of the car business. They were, spent years developing this, and they canceled that this year.
Oh, okay.
So go over and take a look at TorontoStarts.com. Why NVIDIA stock down after Q2 earnings beat. It has all the information there talking about, what's going on with the stock and what it means.
And this just happened, I think, yesterday or the day before. So this is fresh.
Yeah, this is Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into, what do you think about the nationwide solar farms that's happening with Solar Landscape?
So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's an ambitious project. There's a lot of unused rooftop space on self-storage facilities, which makes sense, right? The question is, and this goes back to, I think it was last week we talked about those solar panels. Like, if they do this, then what about those other solar panels that come out that they could probably potentially triple, quadruple the amount of output? What do they do then? Because this is a huge undertaking, right?
Yeah, this is an amazing undertaking. I really love the concept,
So do I.
but I agree with you. We if those new solar panels are the leap forward that they claim they're going to be, the new PVT
Mhm.
90% efficient solar panels, PVT, PTV. Anyway, go back. Those will be coming out in the next couple of days on the podcast, um, or go back and look at our video last week. Then these would be a huge jump.
Yeah,
And I've been talking about why don't we have these everywhere? And I did some checking because Amazon deployed solar panels on their warehouses everywhere. And then they had a bunch of problems with fires and whatnot, and they stopped it.
yeah,
But apparently they've kind of figured those things out and committed to deploying solar and is continuing. So I was wondering, my concern is deploying these great. So their concept is, hey, on all these self-storage lots everywhere, we're going to rent the roofs and put solar panels and generate power. It's like, great, because you have all these buildings that have these flat roofs across the country. We'll go and put solar panels there. But who maintains them? Who's keeping track if there's a fire or they're not running or whatever? There's nobody on site. Like if you got a huge Amazon warehouse and it's help powering the warehouse, then you've got an electrician there doing
yeah.
whatever because you have to have one. But you don't
So,
necessarily have one in a
yeah,
self-storage unit.
yeah, and with the new panels, you don't have that problem with overheating. But again, don't get me wrong, this is great. Like we need more power on the grid because of the demand. So this is a great initiative, and I think this is great. This is going to help for sure, 100%.
Yeah, they're planning 100 megawatt capacity on this solar farm. So I would agree with you from a point of view, if somebody needs to, if they're investing this kind of money, somebody needs to be looking at this new solar panel technology and what the new solar panel technology is, and understand the timeline to get to those,
Yeah,
and say, listen, we have to. It's like buying a new computer. There's always a new
yeah,
computer
there
around
is.
the corner. Are you waiting for the M4 chip? Are you buying M3? Are you waiting for the M5? There's always a new one. So you want to plan and say, all right, if there's a good chance that these will come out within our time frame, then we can plan, we can build infrastructure, we can do a bunch of things, and then implement the latest solar panels at that time in 2 years. Once we've got the infrastructure, the rollout, this and that, the plan, the people behind it, and let's go. But if they're not available, you're going to go with the latest one. So you can start negotiating contracts and put those kinds of
Yeah,
things in place. But that's got to happen at a high level. The problem is you're talking about budgets now.
yeah,
I have a long history of being a technical project manager, and most people don't budget properly. And I always had a nice contingency built into my budgets that you couldn't find because I built it into every little thing.
yeah,
So that it's one of those that over time you have a lot of wiggle room. Okay, because eventually the client comes to you and says, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And I had a completely different philosophy from project management than most of the people had in the industry. I took these training courses, and everyone says on time, on budget, is all that matters, right?
yeah.
And I just laugh. I laugh every time they say that. And I said, you're completely wrong. None of that
Mhm.
matters. You know what matters? The guy signing the check or girl at the end of the day is smiling.
Yeah,
If you're happy when you pay me for the work I've done, you're going to call me back and you're
yeah,
happy. If I'm on time and on budget, you could be miserable. You'll never say a good word to me and be about and kicking me out the door. And you're like, oh, you're a good project manager. You meant like, really? That's what happened? Because you delivered something you agreed to 3 years ago and were completely unflexible and now doesn't fit with the solution they need, and he's miserable and throwing you out the door because they just wasted all this money.
yeah,
Anyway, we got to get going, I guess.
yeah.
I'm looking. I
Sounds
This
good.
100 million megawatt 100 megawatt solar farm from Solar Landscape is looking really interesting.
It
we're
is.
gonna
Yeah.
keep we're
Let's just
keep
hope that they future proof it. Let's hope they future proof it. Let's hope they plan it properly. Yeah,
Absolutely. This would be great if they future proof it, plan it properly. We'll keep track of it and let people know what's going on.
absolutely.
So, John, you help people get government funding.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to book some time with me, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll share my Calendly with you. You can book some time. We can do an assessment. We can talk through. We can talk through. We can talk through what your needs are, and see what's out there for you. 100%.
And check out TorontoStartups.com for the latest episodes of all this stuff. Go to whoarethestartups.com for our interviews with startups. Go to startupdrinksto.com for our in-person monthly networking events with startups and investors. But you can find all that information on TorontoStartups.com. And thanks again for joining us. And thanks again, John.
Thank you, Craig.